Here now to talk about those debt negotiations is Congressman Reed. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Nick, for having us on tonight.
So what can you tell us about the plan put out today by Speaker Boehner? Is this something that your colleagues in the House can get behind?
Well, we're starting to take a hard look at it. It just was unveiled this afternoon, and we're going through the details of the legislation, looking at what the CBO is doing in regards to scoring it, which means what are the cuts, where are the cuts, are they significant cuts, are they legitimate cuts? And we'll see how that unfolds over the next few days. But it's a step in continuing the pattern that we have done in the House. We have put concrete proposals passed onto the floor and passed legislation that deals with the problem. And that's what the Senate and the White House have not done, and that's been, to my opinion, a large part of the problem.
Now, this plan, though, is different from the cut, cap, and balance plan that the House voted on and passed last week. The Senate voted on it and voted it down. Even if it's not cut, cap, and balance, do you think that the more fiscally conservative members of the House Republican conference can back this, though? I mean, is there a problem that this is not what the die-hard fiscal conservatives are looking for?
Well, you know, I think the jury's still out on it, and it's too early to give you an assessment on that. But what I will say that it goes a long way to addressing the problem that is causing the debt crisis, that is causing the related but independent debt ceiling crisis. And so the bottom line is, by cutting spending, we're getting to the root of the problem, and that's the debt that it creates. And it also allows us to put on the table a concrete plan that will bring back certainty and confidence in the American market so that people can invest again, because priority number one has been and will always continue to be getting people back to work and igniting the American economy so people have a job for generations to come.
President Obama this afternoon indicated that he was kind of cool to the Boehner plan, saying that the House should take up what Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid suggested. Why not the Harry Reid plan versus what your leader is proposing?
Well, I think it's becoming very clear to me and to many Americans and people back in the district when we had our town hall meetings this weekend when we went back, that what the president's mostly concerned about, if not all concerned about, is getting enough debt ceiling release so this issue goes away so it's not dealt with in regards to his re-election presidential campaign. So in essence, he's putting politics over policy. What we in the House are focused on is getting a substantive plan in there that is going to get cuts to address the root cause of the problem, which is the debt that is caused by the excessive spending.
But if, as Speaker Boehner, I believe, is proposing, there would be 2 votes to raise the debt ceiling, one, and I think they would be spaced 6 months apart. Now, wouldn't that just bring this problem up again 6 months from now, where we'd have to go through a whole other process of whether Congress will raise the debt ceiling?
Well, I think what it does is it allows us a little bit more time, first to put out there the initial cuts. Remember, the first part of this phase would be to have approximately $1.2 trillion worth of cuts immediately, is my understanding. And then what we would do is then have time to go back and come forward with a joint proposal from a committee approach that would come up with long-term cuts of about $1.8 trillion. So it's really trying to buy some time to really get the debate going, because I think right now we're just starting the debate, and we need more of it because we haven't done it in the open. We haven't done it with the American people's participation, in my opinion. And I think the more that we put the proposals out in front of the American people, the stronger the solution will be ultimately. And that is something that we can be proud of for generations to come, and get people back to work by increasing the certainty and confidence in the American market.
Why is it so difficult to come up with some sort of deal, some sort of compromise plan right now between the Senate, House, and the executive branch on this? It seems like there are these deals that are suggested, that are put out there only for them to be, taken away at the last minute. Why is it so difficult to come up with a deal right now?
Well, Nick, I think I could sum it up by saying that I think there's many people in D.C., in particular in the Senate and in the White House, that are putting politics over substance. And what we have been doing in the House is putting substance onto the table in black and white, in proposals, in plans that can be reviewed by the American people. And that substance requires us to make some really hard decisions and to have an open and honest conversation with the American people that hasn't been had for many years. And if you try to trump that with politics, which I see coming out of the Senate and the White House, that's the problem when you misprioritize those two things, and that's causing a lot of the gridlock that we're seeing today.
But it seems like from certain public perception angles, especially from the liberal base of the Democratic Party, that the problem has been among some folks in the House Republican Conference, especially some of your fellow freshmen. You're not a first-termer technically, but some of your fellow House Republican freshmen who think of compromise as this dirty word, essentially, that they can't compromise or budge on certain beliefs. Is that the case that you're sensing from some of your fellow colleagues?
No, I'll say I'm proud to be part of this freshman class. We talk on a regular basis, and we put substance over politics. We don't care about getting reelected in the sense of, that's got to be the #1 priority, and that's all we talk about. We talk about the substance, and we're open to compromise, but we just want to see what the proposals are. We want to have the debate in the details, in the weeds, if you would, so that we come up with strong, solid, good public policy that can correct the problems that are facing us in D.C. The problems are well known. We know we have a national debt crisis, and it's causing us the corresponding economic impacts, negative impacts, and the uncertainty and disruption and investment in the American market that we're seeing across the nation. And so the bottom line is that it's not that we're being unreasonable. It's just that we want to engage on the policy, and many of the people that have been here in the Senate and in the White House, all they want to do is talk about politics.
We got about a week before this debt ceiling deadline reaches, August 2nd, which is now next Tuesday. Is there enough time to come up with some sort of deal, some sort of compromise that everyone can sign off on, or do you think it'll be some sort of temporary solution to this issue?
I will tell you that as time goes by, keeps going forward, I would say that the temporary solution is probably the more realistic situation that's developing, in my personal opinion. But the point that I would like to stress is that I do believe we will have a resolution before the August 2nd deadline, and that the resolution will allow us to avoid a debt ceiling violation, a debt default, if you would. But then my hope is that we'll continue to work to get a true long-term solution on the table come August 2nd.
Would you be willing, in order to reach that solution, even if it's a temporary one, would you be willing to vote for some revenue adjustments, which is the phrase that a lot of people seem to be using right now for tax increases or closing tax loopholes, adjusting the nation's tax rate?
Yeah, I came to Washington, D.C. with an open mind, and we have signed on to comprehensive tax reform from day one. And what that means is we have to go through the entire code and remove these exemptions, remove these loopholes, and have a candid discussion as to reforming the tax code to make it competitive again. And, I'm glad to see the President came along with that ride here recently, and we're ready to have that conversation. And we'll continue to do that. I don't support tax rate increases because I just don't think that's good, sound policy. But streamlining the tax code itself, I think, is wise and is much in need right now.
But will the final deal include some revenue raisers? In other words, will it be some provisions in there that will increase revenue from the federal government without a corresponding spending cut?
We definitely have to take a look at any type of final proposal that you're referring to, Nick. So I'm not going to say yay or nay on it at this point in time until we see something like that. But the bottom line is comprehensive tax reform has been part of this conversation with the freshman class from day one. We support it, and it's not going to end here. This August 2nd situation will come and go. I believe we will get a resolution to it, but it's just a step in the direction upon getting this nation's fiscal house in order that's going to go on for future battles. This is not the end of this war. This is just the beginning.
Okay. Congressman Tom Reed, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Nick. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.